For this week's lesson, I wanted to try something different. I actually invited a friend of mine over who's a great singer-songwriter, great musician here in Nashville, come over and play and sing. He's a great guitar player, great singer, and I wanted to create that scenario where I'm improvising along with that. I don't know the song. I've never heard it before. What would you do in that situation where you're not getting in the way? You're not stepping on the other person's vocal. You're not stepping on their guitar work. You're just trying to play something that somehow enhances what they're doing or is additive. It doesn't take away from what they're doing. And that's a hard thing to do because your natural inclination might be to play some cool solo or some lead or something, but that's not what you do in that situation. Your job is to take a step back. You're not the front man. That person's the front man. You're just trying to accompany them and make them sound better, really. So I had a good friend of mine, Dennis Caravello, come over. He's somebody I met years ago at an open jam, and he stood out to me because he was, the perfect combination of great lyrics, great melody, vocal melody, and then also he's a great singer, and then he's a really good guitar player. So he's kind of all of those things, and he's a young guy. It got a lot going for him. So I wanted to have him come over and just play a song that I've never heard before, and see what I could do if I just had to improvise it. One take, we'll just kind of let the cameras go. We're not going to sit and talk about the chords or anything. We'll just kind of see what happens. And then and so that's what we did. So we recorded that. And so that's what this video is going to be. It's going to be me playing that video back and watching it, and then pausing the video and explaining what I'm doing in these certain spots, just to kind of give you ideas. I didn't know a better way to do it. And so if you're a premium member, there's some extra materials. I tabbed out one little portion towards the end, which I thought was kind of the best part of it. I tabbed that out, and there's also an MP3 jam track, which has the chords so that you can practice playing those. The MP3 jam track, the tab, and then the specific thing you can play for that. Otherwise, you can follow along in this video, and I'll talk through that process. So here's a little sample of what we played.
I've only got 1 month left together. Yeah, I could treat each bit. Oh, 1 month left together. Should have sent you a text message. On the road I forget sometimes. Back home I forget sometimes. I'm hardly here.
So that's Dennis Caravello. If you like the sound of that, I've got links in the description below for his Spotify. He's got an album up on Spotify. He's got a new one on the way. And then his Instagram and some of the other things, ways that you can follow him. Okay, so I have my iPad set up here. I'm going to play this video of Dennis and I performing this song that Dennis wrote. It's a great little song. And remember, this is only the second time I've heard this song. We played through it one other time about 5 minutes before this. And we never wrote down any chords, or I never wrote down any, or we never even discussed it. He just kind of played through it, and I kind of got it in my ear. But I wanted to do that and do it in one take and just see what happens so that you can see what it's like to improvise over something, give you ideas for some of the possibilities that are out there. Now, if I were to sit and really kind of compose something, I might do it a lot different. But there's something to be said about, playing something just raw and off the cuff like that. You get a different kind of thing than if you sit down and sort of pre-plan. So always try and push yourself to do that. But remember, the one thing is, when you're playing along with somebody like this, you do not want to step on what they're doing. You want to always try and make them sound good. It's not your time to shine. It's your time to make them shine. And you're really more of a support role in that. Okay, so here we go.
Let's see.
So I'm just sitting here listening to this, getting the vibe. Okay, so I knew the first chord there, the one chord is an E, because we did play through it one other time. But what I played there, that's it. Dennis is already doing something really cool with his fingerstyle rhythm there. I don't need to do anything fancy or anything busy. I just need to, if I'm going to play anything at all and, make myself useful, that's all I could come up with for that. And I thought it kind of worked. So all I'm doing is just playing, if you think of your E chord, you just hammer on your middle finger and then play that open 6th string. Keep that in mind. Sometimes just playing a note of a chord, you don't need to do anything flashy. That's not the point. Just try and create something melodically to enhance the other guy. So right there I was just playing through the chords, and here's another little tip. So what the chords are E, A, and B. So over the E, I just hit the E string. For the A, it's an A sus2 chord. This is a must-know chord when you're trying to create that sort of unresolved sound. I don't know how best to say it, but it's a really nice for kind of this style. So if you think of your A chord where you cram all 3 fingers in, you just lift one of them, lift your the second string there. That would be an A sus2. And you can bar and do that chord shape anywhere that you know your A chord shape out of Caged, you can now use that. But it gives you this really nice sound that's really neither major nor minor. But anyway, that's what I did over the A, and then just did a B7 because that's the 5 chord, and then he goes back to the 1.
Sure was nice loving you, maybe that's why I gave
Didn't play anything there.
I never mind.
Okay, so here's the first thing. If you notice, you know, there's obviously the vocal going on there once it kicks in, but then there's a little break. And this is in every song. There's always, you know, the vocal just never keeps going. Well, maybe if it's an Eminem song, but otherwise there's like these little breaks, you know, where there's a breath. And so that's what I wait for in this kind of moment. And so look for something, and that's where I would try and inject something. It doesn't have to be much. And so what I did there was I went, because the song, at that point in the song, it was a 5 chord, the B, and what I was thinking about, and you'll see me come back to this a few times, is I was thinking of the B chord using the A shape out of Caged, and when I do that, I have strings 5, 4, and 3. I have frets 4, 6 on each of those strings. If you think of those as being embellishment notes off of this chord shape, they're also the notes in the major pentatonic scale for this chord shape. Right? So some of you are connecting those dots here. But anyway, that's what I played. I slid up here to the 6th fret, 5th string, did a hammer on 4th string, 4th fret to the 6th fret, and then back to the E. It's not the most clever thing I could come up with, but it just sort of worked there. At least that's what came out. So here we go.
Sleeping on the couch, I can think of things I'd rather do.
That was a mistake, by the way. I'm not sure what that was. I just kind of went up in here. It looked like I was trying to make a chord shape there, but that note did fit. I think I had another idea that just never resolved. And if that happens, just let the note just sort of die out. It's okay. Nobody knows what your intent is, so you can keep that your secret.
Now, be nice to cook you breakfast.
Okay, so this is kind of cool. This is the little pre-chorus part of the song where he goes to a C sharp minor, and then G sharp minor, and then to an A. And then he repeats that. And then back to the 1 chord, which is the E. Now over that, what I ended up playing was something like, I think that's what I did. Let me back up and listen to that again.
Be nice to cook
I did nothing there.
breakfast.
Yeah, so all right, so after watching that and thinking about what's going on there, this is kind of interesting to me. What those notes are, those are, all right, it's just the E major scale. Just walking down the E major scale, but it sounds really nice over that C sharp minor and this other little section. The reason for that is C sharp minor is the relative minor of E. Now, I did not sit and think that through when I was doing it. I just knew that I could stay in the key of the song. If you're kind of lost, kind of not sure, go to your pentatonic scales for the key of the song. So in this case, it would be like the E major pentatonic scale or the E major scale. And that's kind of what I was doing there. I was just messing around, noodling around. But that works really well over this. And then goes back to your C sharp minor. And that relationship between the relative minor and its major mean that both of those chords, the C sharp minor and the E, share the same scale. They both share what would be the E major scale. All right.
They all tell me I'm gonna regret this.
Walk down that note.
I've only got
A little embellishment after his vocal. Okay, so this is where the song was on the B chord, which is your 5 chord. I can tell it's about to go to the 1 chord. There's the tension, and it needs that release, right? So for that B chord, I went a little lick right there. And this is going back to what I said at the beginning of this video. Remember, off of this chord shape, your A chord shape, so we're playing the B chord using the A shape, you've got these little boxes here, right? And you can connect them to this. That means anytime you're playing this chord shape, you've got all of these things you can do right there. It's just major pentatonic scale. But in that case, I wasn't playing the major pentatonic scale for the key. I was playing the major pentatonic scale for that chord. Just that little bit of it. And then it goes to the 1 chord, the E.
1 month left again. Yeah, I could treat each bit.
So what I did there was when he goes to the E, I went, and then to the A. So all I'm doing is I'm playing harmonized 6, but they're out of these chords. So if you're playing your E chord, you've got your E chord up here using the D shape, right? If I played strings 3 and 1, that's all I was doing. And then if we came to the A chord here, this little triad, and I played strings 3 and 1, that's what I was doing. So now I could have went up to the 5 chord, but I didn't. I thought it would be too obnoxious and kind of cut through the vocal a little bit. I remember kind of thinking, it's funny, I can go back to my thought process. We did this yesterday, but I remember thinking that, like, just let the A ring out, even though he's going to play the B chord. And so you can hear that. Let me just back that up and you hear what I'm talking about. Here's the E. There's the A. And so I came out of it with, and now that's nothing fancy. And remember, this is just being made up on the spot, but this again, it's the E major scale. And so from that A, we go down to the 4th fret, down to the 2nd fret, and then open and open. Because these 2 notes are open in the E chord, right? All right, let's keep going.
Yeah, should've sent you a text.
Back to the A sus chord.
On the road I forget sometimes. Back home I forget sometimes.
Okay, so in this part, it's kind of cool. He's going from the A to the B, and he just keeps going back and forth. And so what I played for that, I played the A triad here. That's the A chord, you know, in first position. Then I just slid that up 2 frets and played the B chord. I didn't even make the full B chord using that whole A shape. I just used this little triad here between strings 2, 3, and 4. So that's how I did it. You know, it's just a little subtle thing, but I thought that fit well with what he was doing because he's playing a much busier part. I don't have room to be busy, so I'm just gonna... It's okay to just play a few notes of a chord. You do not have to be all over the place. Like that little E part I just played with a major scale. That's enough. Right? Just a nice little chimey thing that happens over the E chords.
I'm hardly here.
Okay, so what's going on there is this droning thing that happens off of the 1 string. Since the song is played in the key of E, you can let that 1 string, which is your open E note, ring out, and then you can go down to the 2nd string and play basically the E major scale. And so that's what I'm doing. You can get very creative with that, but it's just a nice, pretty kind of double stop that's happening without having to really think about it. I'm not thinking about harmonizing anything. I'm just letting that E string ring out while I play a melody underneath it. I did nothing there. I was just like, and you know, another thing is maybe it didn't need anything. You know, my ear's trying to dictate where I need to go next, and I don't know, nothing came.
I meant to shut you out outside, out of mind, always running around.
Just playing the chorus there. Okay, so right there, that's kind of cool. There's just, I just played the A chord, and then it went. Okay, because we're back to the 1 chord. And when I'm playing there, this is the Keith Richards thing. I'm always talking about this, right? You know, he uses that a lot in a lot of his embellishments. But it's really just the E chord using the C shape out of Caged. But I just play that little triad there, strings 4, 3, and 2. And I go to that quite a bit in this because it's just so useful.
Thinking about you should been.
Okay, so then there was another little lick. And then it went. And what is that? It's still the E major scale. It's just a little embellishment that I've memorized years ago off of this chord shape. So when I play this chord shape, I know I've got this little chunk of the E major scale. I like to connect pieces of the major scale to chord shapes, and it's a really good technique. So that's what I'm doing. A little pull off there. It's kind of a nice little embellishment. And then the song goes to the A, but I went back to the E. You can hear it right here. Let me back this up.
A whole lot to be thinking about you. Should have been thinking out loud.
That was a mistake.
Hung over instead.
Lost. And so I kind of made the wrong move there. I went, you know, so he's playing an A chord, and I went, well, that doesn't work at all. I was lost. But what happens is you have to quickly pivot and get unlost. So I was like, okay, how do I get back on? You know, I'm driving the car. I'm off the ditch here. How do I get back? Oh yeah, I'll go back to that E major scale run, right? And so I just kind of keep going back to the things that I know work because I've already sort of dipped my toe in that water and I knew that worked before. So I went back into that E major scale that we know works over that C sharp minor because it's the relative minor, right?
Take out sushi, she's waiting on me again.
All right, that's one other thing I want to point out because he's playing the B chord, the 5 chord. I use this all the time. It's really just playing a 7 chord. It's just another way to think of the 7, playing a 7 chord, dominant 7. But if you're looking at this A chord shape and you slide up into this position, that's really playing that same chord shape, but using the G shape actually. But I don't ever talk about the G shape much. I always just kind of relate it back to the A shape. Anyway, you can come up to this. I'm just playing strings 4 and 3, but I let my ring finger slide all the way up, in this case to the 7th fret, 4th string, while I keep that bar there on the 4th fret. I just love the sound of that. So that's another way of making a 7 chord off of this shape. Right? It's really pretty. Back to the E.
Yeah, I could treat you better. All my left.
There's another little kind of country lick. And that's just thinking about the E chord using the C shape. Kind of that Keith Richards thing. It's a little country lick that I learned years ago, and I use it all the time, but it comes out of that C shape. The other thing that I'm doing quite a bit is playing these low notes. And remember this is another great embellishment idea for you, is when you're playing out of the E chord shape, you've got, look at where your middle finger and your ring finger are. They're in the 2nd fret when you play that, right? So if we think of the 2nd fret, and we think of a box between the 2nd fret and the 4th fret, you've got the 6th string, 5th string, and 4th string. You know, some of you have heard me talk about this because I've mentioned it several times, but that little embellishment I use all the time off of the E shape. And And I would do that for this, I would do it for country, I'd do it for blues. So you can get a lot of mileage out of that area.
Just sent you a text message. On the road I forget.
I'm not sure what I'm doing there. Oh, okay, and back to this. Back to the E. There was a little embellishment. So just pinky goes down on the 3rd string, 2nd fret. Now that was cool. That was a total mistake. Not a mistake, that was total just luck. We both happened to play the same thing. I watched this like 5 times trying to figure out like who's doing what, and I still can't figure it out. It's weird because the way I recorded it, it sort of blends the 2 sounds. It's something like this. That's what it sounds like. But it seemed like Dennis and I did that together, which was just really weird. And then after that, what did I do? All right, so after that, I went back to this E chord using the C shape that I talked about and played this. It's just another embellishment that I've memorized through the years. C shape, but we're playing the E chord. And it's really still just the major scale, and so that's another little thing that you might play around with off of this chord shape. Right? Just another little idea, but you know, walk away with a few of these ideas, and hopefully there'll be something that you can use in your playing. That time I reached up for the A and like this, just to give a more full sounding A. So it's another way to think about an A. These are all just ideas that you pick up through the years, and they kind of come out when you're not even thinking about it. I learned that from a blues thing, that kind of thing.
Pretty soon the rent will be due.
Back to, I just played the chords here. And right there, I went back into, and this is the last lick. I'm going to end with this. In the part 2, I'm going to tab things out and actually give you this little practice exercise. But right there, that last lick, I went back into that little box I already just talked about, using that embellishment off of the E shape. And so that's just another little kind of fill lick idea. All right, I'm going to end this video right here. But remember, if you're a premium member, I have the extra materials for you. So I have the little MP3 jam track that you can practice playing this with. And also I've tabbed out the last piece of this song, what I did when I improvised. I tabbed that out so that you can practice putting it all together. And I want to say thank you to you, Dennis. Hopefully you're watching this. I really appreciate you coming over and doing this. I think you're just an amazing musician all around and a really nice guy, fun guy to hang out with. Fun guy to chat with. We like to talk gear and kind of nerd out on that stuff. If you haven't followed Dennis, I would encourage you to do that. He's a great, if you like what you hear in this video, you're going to love his stuff. He's on Spotify. Put links in the description below, but Spotify, Instagram, all that stuff. So make sure you check him out. And then I'll see you in the next video.